Being lonely with no friends, a girlfriend, or close by relative can have a devastating effect on someone, and such is the story I'm about to tell you. If you're joining me for the first time and you love the true, dark, and scary stories, you have just found the right channel. Welcome to the Dark Past, where I'll be bringing you one or two stories every week. So please do sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. 36 years old Boyd Taylor shared a home with his divorced father, Robert, who was 60 when this took place in the northern England countryside. Boyd was single and he had no children. He worked with his father in their small construction business building houses around the area. Whenever they were done with work, Boyd would just be in his room all day. He had no friends or girlfriend, which classified him as a loner. One day, Robert heard the sounds of sawing and hammering coming from his son's room. So when he went to ask his son what he was doing and if he needed any help, Boyd didn't open his door to his father and just replied, "I'm working on a woodworking project." And when his father asked, "Can I come in and take a look?" he told his father he wants to be left alone. So Robert told him, "If you need any help, just let me know," and he leaves. Over the next 2 months, every day after work, Boyd would be locked away in his bedroom, sawing and hammering at his woodworking project. And all this while, Boyd refused to let his father come into his room to see what he was doing. Anytime his father asks him, he tells him he just wants to be left alone, so Robert leaves him alone. In early December, Boyd walks up to his father and asks him if it would be possible for him to just take the next few months off so he could finish his woodworking project. Robert didn't like the idea because the company was operated by him and his son, and he knew that would slow his working pace. But Robert agreed to his son's wishes and let him take the time off because he felt his son had finally found something he is interested in. Robert had so wished for his son to be more social and make friends, now thinking to himself that at least he had found something he's passionate about, let him be. For the whole month of December, anytime Robert left for work, he would hear the sounds of hammering and sawing coming from his son's room, and hours later, when he returned from work, he would still hear the sounds of hammering and sawing still coming out from his son's room, and whenever he asks if he could come and take a look, Boyd would refuse yet again. At the end of the month, when Robert expected Boyd to show him the project, Boyd told him he wasn't done yet and would need a couple of weeks. So Robert said, "Okay, take all the time you need." On January 8th, Robert got back from work, ate dinner, and was watching TV when he felt like it was time to go to bed, and as he passed his son's room, he could still hear him working on his woodworking project and tells him he's going to bed, then goes into his room and falls asleep. At 3:30 a.m., early in the morning, Robert was suddenly awoken by an incredible crashing sound, thinking the chimney had collapsed because that's how loud the sound was. He rushes out of his room to look around the house, but everything looks fine. The chimney was still there, intact. He walks up to his son's room, wanting to ask if he had heard the sound too, but when he leans against the door, everything seemed quiet in there. He didn't want to wake up his son because he knew how hard he had been working this past month on his project, so he decides just go back to bed. The next morning, Robert woke up and started to get ready for work. He steps into the kitchen to prepare some food and realizes he doesn't hear the sounds of woodwork coming from his son's room. As he was about to leave for work, he walks to his son's room and leans against the door, but it was totally silent in there. He tries to open the door, but it was locked. So he thought to himself, maybe his son was still asleep. Not wanting to disturb him, Robert leaves for work. That evening, when he returned from work and stepped into his house, to his surprise, the house was so silent. For several months now, his house in the evening has never been quiet. Boyd was always sawing, hammering away at his woodworking project, and he thought if Boyd was done with his project, then it was time to show it to him, as he had waited all these months to see what his son was working on. Robert walks straight to his son's door and says, "Hey, are you done with your project?" But is met with total silence. He then tries to open the door, but it was still locked. He then yells out for his son to come out and talk to him, but there was no response. He then thought maybe he wasn't home, so he walks out to the driveway to see if his car was there, and surely enough, his car was still there. So he runs back into the house, shouting his son's name, but he was nowhere to be found. He is now in a panic mode. He ran out to his car, grabs a sledgehammer, walks close to his son's door, breaks down the door, and when he steps inside his son's room, it was empty. But he noticed that at the back right corner of the room, where there was an alcove, Boyd had built a door over it, turning it into a kind of sub-room. He tries the doorknob, but it was locked. So he picks up the sledgehammer again and broke off the doorknob. He swung open the door, and what he saw was so shocking that for minutes he was stunned. He quickly gets a grip of himself, ran out of his son's room, and called the police. 3 months earlier, Boyd had decided to build a specific device that was invented in 1789 by the French. He had built the device in the alcove and the door in front of it to prevent his father from seeing what he was doing. The whole time, Boyd was building an 8-foot tall and 3 feet wide structure, and when it was complete, he then added some mechanism to make it perfect. When his woodwork project was complete, Boyd took a mattress into the sub-room and laid it under the structure, made sure the doors were locked, swallowed 12 sleeping pills, then laid on the mattress, knowing the pills would be so strong his position would not alter, and pressed a button next to the structure he had built. The button started a timer, and when the timer went off, it would activate the whole device he had built as he fell asleep. The timer went off at 3:30 a.m. It would start by the electric jigsaw set up next to the contraption and plugged into a timer switch, which would start the saw, cutting the wood and releasing the wire that held the blade, coming straight down, decapitating one's head on the body. Boyd had built a guillotine. A guillotine is an apparatus designed for effectively carrying out executions by beheading. His father had found him in a pool of blood with his head cut off. Boyd even created a device to cut off the power so he would not be discovered for some time. He carved a Gothic-style wooden hammer which was raised using thread and attached to the guillotine. When the blade was released, it cut the thread, letting the hammer swing, hit a peg, and knock out the power. Boyd didn't leave a note for the reasons of his actions. His father was so devastated. It was obvious Boyd exhibited some signs of depression, and if only he had reached out for help, Boyd's death would have been avoided. That brings us to the end of today's story. If you love the story, please do not forget to give it a like, share it, which encourages me to bring you more interesting stories like this from around the world. I don't know what media you are watching with, but you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And please do not forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. Thank you. See you next time and bye for now.